Welcome to Discover Cape. Discover Cape is a 30-minute program that will introduce you to fascinating people, take you to interesting places, and enlighten you on important events that happen in our region. We begin the new year with stories about anniversaries and celebrations. It's a centennial celebration for Academic Hall on the campus of Southeast Missouri State University. We look back at the beginning and what the building meant to the people of the city, the region, and the state. The River Heritage Museum is celebrating its 25th anniversary. Located in Old Fire Station Number 1, the museum celebrates the people and the river of our region. We look back at the SEMO District Fair as it celebrated 150 years of service to the region. And finally, the City of Cape celebrates its bicentennial. Each month will highlight an important part of our community for this year-long celebration.
An industrial symphony of man and machine, growling engines and elbow grease, backup plans and watchful eyes, mountains of fuel, teeming with big yellow brontosaurs that could pick monster trucks out of their teeth, all to make sure the turbines whirl, so the lines buzz, so the night lights of the neighborhood flicker to life when called upon.
It was once the largest building in the state. It was the building on campus for classes, administration, and graduation. It is a masterful piece of architecture that represents the university in stature and grace. Academic Hall turns 100 years old this year.
The first Academic Hall was founded here in Cape Girardeau in 1873. And this was a big event for this region of the state. And from 1875 to 1902, the 3rd District Normal School, which became Southeast Missouri State University, was located in the one building on this campus, Academic Hall, the first Academic Hall, on the very hill where Academic Hall now stands. That all changed on the night of April 7th, 1902, when somewhere close to midnight, the fire alarms rang and Academic Hall was on fire. And by 1 a.m., the story is that all of Normal Street and Pacific Street were lined with people watching the big fire that was destroying their college. The fire department was located on Independence Street, where the River Heritage Museum is currently located. And horse-drawn, they tried to get the fire engine out and up to the hill. It was April, the streets were muddy, and the fire engine, in their haste, slipped off of the road, got bogged down, and didn't get to the fire. But the building burned on that night in April of 1902. In the aftermath, the very following morning at 10 o'clock, the president of the institution, Washington Dearmont, and the president of the Board of Regents, Lewis Houck, reassured the crowd, reassured the students that the college would continue. And between 1902 and 1904, the plans were drawn, money allocated, architects selected, and the construction in Academic Hall began. It was supposed to be a building that would make a statement to Southeast Missouri about the hopes and the aspirations of this region for the education in the future. And by 1905, the building was going up and finished by the end of the year. They wanted something grand, something significant. So he designed a building that was 260 feet long, 176 feet deep, with an auditorium that would seat 1,200 students, which exceeded the current enrollment of both students and faculty. The architect built this building 3 stories tall, 48 feet high, 260 feet long, and then put a dome on top of it. A grand statement of the aspirations of the architect and of the building, which when finished was the biggest public building in the state of Missouri, larger than the state capitol. Academic Hall is certainly makes a grand statement about this region, and it's significant to recognize that it's built of materials from this region. The poplar wood that poses the grand structure of this building came from southeast Missouri, from the wetlands and the hills of this region. The limestone blocks came from a quarry just across the street. There are still remains on the landscape of some of the rock outcroppings and some of the cut rocks that came from the Landsman quarry. One of the unique features of the dome, which everyone really enjoys and I think is historic, are all of the names that have been written on these timbers. And these gigantic timbers have always been prime targets for people with pieces of chalk. And for 100 years, it was sort of a tradition that you write your initials, your names, or you put a "I love so-and-so" here. Expressions of you've been here. You've been a part of the history of this institution. So there's 100 years of names, 100 years of initials, all the way from this level where we're standing to the very top of the dome. If you look up in the very top of the dome, you'll see that when they installed that sprinkler system, some of the people on those scaffolds put their initials up there. So there's no section of the dome that doesn't have initials. People recording, "I have been here." One of the unique features of this building is not just the dome, that's the most visible part of the building, but once you step inside, you come up those front steps or come in the back door. One of the first things you notice, the marble hallways, the tile that reflects so much of the time period. The tile floor with the bluebird, the state bird of Missouri, is there. And the chandeliers that came from the World's Fair in 1903 and 4, which was held in St. Louis. The woodwork that comes from southeast Missouri. The woodwork is still there. It's the original woodwork. And in this hallway, this grand hallway on the first floor, if you have students coming in from Kennett, from Malden, from Hornersville, from Puxico, one-room schools, small classes, and they walk into the hallway of academic, it had to have an impact upon them. Clearly they knew they were someplace else. Clearly they knew that they were in a place of culture, of sophistication, and of education. I think Academic Hall makes a statement about who we are. I think it makes a statement about the ambitions, hopes, and the aspirations of the people of southeast Missouri. It's been here 100 years. It's been a fixture for a century. It's had a special place in the education of this region. It still does. And the hope and the ambition is that it will last another 100 years.
This is one of our attractions for the youngsters that come to the museum. They thoroughly enjoy being exactly where I am right now, in the pilot house.
They came from every corner of the country. From small towns and big cities. But they all shared one thing in common. They belonged to a family called Marines. A tough and determined few, dedicated to protecting everything we hold sacred. And still they come. Celebrate the history of those proud few who have earned the title Marine.
The Cape River Heritage Museum is located in the Old City Fire Station Number 1. It displays river-related artifacts and historical items. The Southeast Missouri story is portrayed along with an interpretive story of the Mississippi River in Cape Girardeau.
The River Heritage Museum is, you might say, a depository for local and other memorabilia. We try to exhibit things of interest, of course, but we are dominantly a museum that represents the river. Originally, we pretty much took anything that anyone had, and some of the things were not always completely desirable for exhibits. So we are a little bit more particular, you might say, at this time about what we accept. But we almost accept anything that anyone is willing to donate and do our best to have that on exhibit at some time. This is one of our attractions for the youngsters that come to the museum. They thoroughly enjoy being exactly where I am right now, in the pilot house. And they love to steer the wheel, and above all, this is what they love to do. They love to ring that bell, and sometimes I wish they didn't, but it's enjoyable for the children. Well, this is our little display of what you would find on the river years ago, plus cotton, of course, which was something that is south of us and still is. And for many people that don't know this, on plantations, there was brown cotton, which we sell in our gift shop. And the brown cotton was the crops of the slaves, so that they could know that they actually had the cotton that they had harvested for themselves. And we do have that in the gift shop, but not located right here. And we have a grower south of here that grows the brown cotton for us. The picture up above is a lithograph from 1858. It's old Cape Girardeau, and many of the structures there are no longer in existence. The hotels downtown, St. Charles Hotel no longer is around. The Riverview Hotel is no longer around. Of course, we see up here at the top, there's the cathedral, as I call it, St. Vincent's Church. That is still in existence, thank goodness. Many of the other residences, the Davis family, the Hirsches, many of the houses no longer exist. This exhibit is a portion of our Willard Vandiver exhibit. This gentleman came from Virginia to Missouri and eventually came to Cape Girardeau, and he was president. Well, he was an educator, and he was president of the old Normal School. He decided to go into politics. For what reason, I'm not too sure. And when he got out east, became a congressman from the 14th District in Missouri, all of a sudden he decided, he was rather outspoken, and he decided that the Easterners were quite snooty folks. And this is what he came up with. As you can see, this is a picture right there of him. And he said, I come from a state that raises corn, cotton, cockleburs, and Democrats. For all the eloquence neither convinces nor satisfies me. I am from Missouri. You've got to show me. So there you are, ladies and gentlemen. That's how we became the Show Me State.
I suppose the thing that would bring people in more is the flavor of local history being brought back to being able to be viewed by the younger generation. We're all part of our heritage and the history in the area that we live, and sometimes if we don't have a repository for that to be kept, it gets away from us, and it can get away very quickly. So I think a museum like this is a good spot to keep our history intact for our ongoing generations.
Maybe you know, and maybe you don't know. You'll have to come to the museum and find out if you don't know.
Fairs were started as an opportunity for livestock people and farmers to get together to compete, to display in competition between their goods that they were producing. See who had the biggest cow, who had the fastest horse, the best corn.
Can I ask a few questions about the apartment on Park Street?
What was your name?
My name is Juan Hernandez.
It's been rented.
Hello, my name is Sanjay Kumar. I am calling about the apartment on Park Street.
It just rented.
My name is Tyrone Washington. I'm calling about the apartment for rent on Park Street.
It's not available.
I use a wheelchair and...
It's gone.
Hello, my name is Graham Wellington. I'm calling about the apartment for rent on Park Street. Is that still available?
Yes, it is.
What is?
Housing discrimination is illegal. If you think you've been a victim, call us.
Brand new student loan applications on the site, baby. This calls for a celebration.
For all your government information, firstgov.gov.
Who's your uncle?
As forecasted, in rolls the archenemy, cumulonimbus behemoths, spilling torrents, and crackling flashes in the night, humbling Dobermans and tumbling oak trees. But in the real world, there is no hall of justice, just a legion of men and women who've traded in their capes and hero mobiles for canvas coveralls and bucket trucks.
For the last 150 years, the SEMO District Fair has celebrated the best the region has to offer in animals, agriculture, and of course, the people. Pete Poe takes a look back at how the fair has changed, but yet has stayed true to its humble beginnings.
I'm Pete Poe. I'm president of the Southeast Missouri District Fair Association. Locally, the first fair in Cape Girardeau was in 1855, which is 150 years ago. This is the 150th celebration. It was in 1855, was in an area south of what used to be St. Francis Hospital, down on South Frederick Street. Fairs started many years ago. The first known recorded fair in the United States was in Pennsylvania in 1850. Fairs were started as an opportunity for livestock people and farmers to get together to compete, to display in competition between their goods that they were producing. To see who had the biggest cow, who had the fastest horse, the best corn. We've got a full range of exhibits from our field crops to livestock to baked goods to canned goods to handicraft to displays that youngsters put together, the 4-H kids. So we've got a wide assortment. The fairs have always had, and use the word livestock exhibits again, but they've always had livestock and crop exhibits. When fairs first got started, that was what it was about, and they gradually added handiwork, handicraft by the youngsters, by the wives, baked goods, canned goods, that sort of thing. That was a natural evolution as the farmers continued to get together, that the wives wanted to be part of it, and they started bringing their exhibits as well. Rides in some form or another have been offered since fairs began, but back in the old days, it was by horse and buggy, that sort of thing. You know, not everyone could, own the horse and buggy. Some of them lived in town and actually walked, didn't have that sort of thing. So they got the opportunity for them to ride a horse. It's always been there. Rides in some form or another. The first mechanical rides started about 1900. Ferris wheel was probably the best known and the biggest attraction that came to fairs. That started in the World's Fair, produced a Ferris wheel that had like 60 cars on it, and each one of them would contain 60 people. So at its peak, it would carry 3,600 people on one Ferris wheel at one time. We've always had musical entertainment of some form since they moved to the Arena Park here, the fairgrounds, which was in 1940. We've been here 65 years. They've always had some, and go all the way back to stars like Minnie Pearl was here. We've had Roy Clark, we've had Tom T. Hall, we've had Willie Nelson, we've had Waylon Jennings, the list just goes on. When the fair first started, the state legislature appropriated $4,000 to produce a fair. So we'll have to say that that's probably somewhere close to what their budget was. This year, our budget was somewhere closer to $400,000. We're always looking to make it bigger and better, and not just in words, but to make it more fair-goer friendly, people friendly. Youngsters are a very important part of our fair future, and we try to deal with youngsters on every level. When we make a decision, we ask ourselves 2 or 3 questions. One of those, is it financially sound thing to do? How does it fit in our bigger picture? Is it good for fairgoers? Is it something they're going to enjoy? So those are some of the questions that we ask.
The idea of the different murals around town was originally my idea, having visited Little Rock, Arkansas back in 1986 and seen a similar kind of mural project, and was very much enthralled by the idea.
You won't find these highlights on any sports network. Tonight, no medals will be handed out and no trophies to hoist. These are not made for TV games, but when you've got a deep freeze full of 16-ounce ribeyes, pork roasts, and venison sausage, you'll be cheering them on nonetheless. After all, in the untelevised wake of the storm, there's much more at stake than frozen steaks.
Pants, pants, pants. I am folding the pants. Do they go on my head?
Everyday moments can become teaching moments because learning starts long before school does. Give your child the start they need at bornlearning.org.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll put that out.
The city of Cape Girardeau turns 200 years old this year. In honor of our bicentennial, Discover Cape will highlight a significant part of our community each and every month. We start the new year with a look at the beautiful and dynamic murals. This artistic expression is both beautiful and educational. There are the simple and the dynamic, but each telling a story.
The city of Cape Girardeau was once known as the City of Roses and is now becoming known as the City of Murals. How did this come about?
The idea of the different murals around town was originally my idea, having visited Little Rock, Arkansas back in 1986 and seen a similar kind of mural project, and was very much enthralled by the idea. Came back to Cape, started talking to a good friend of mine, Jake Wells, who's the individual that painted the nice mural inside Kent Library. He and Bill Chamberlain and a few others, we all teamed up and began to get into the idea that we could paint murals around town.
This mural is located inside Kent Library of Southeast Missouri State University and is one of the largest indoor murals in Missouri. This mural serves as a memorial to the strength and determination of the people who lived and worked in Southeast Missouri. The area's rich background shows the message of the nature and of the development of the area. These include the Mississippi River, agricultural, and mineral and timber sources. The mural features railroad workers, farmers, early settlers, and Native Indians. The City Hall of Cape Girardeau was once Lorimer School. Murals of King Cole, 3 Men in a Tub, Huck Finn, and Long John Silver are a decorative touch to the background of the water fountains. The Heritage of Music Building mural is located on the west side of Shivelby Music Building and celebrates the musical history in Cape. It features the Shoe Shirt Silver Cornet Band, which was active in the city during the turn of the century. The Coca-Cola mural is located on the side of Port Cape Girardeau Restaurant. This mural was discovered in 1978 when this historic building was being sandblasted. The Coca-Cola Company had it restored to its original appearance. This fascinating mural inside the lobby of Southeast Missouri Hospital was done by John Hunn of St. Louis in 1996. The mural is 72 feet wide and 11 feet high. Almost 24 men and women are featured on the mural. All of these men and women guided mankind into a better life through science. The mural blends mythology and reality, which creates the educational history of medicine. On the Southeast Missourian Newspaper Building. In the northern mural entitled Gathering and Disseminating News, editors and reporters gathered news from a number of famous visitors to Cape Girardeau. Fred Nader sits at a table with Evangeline Booth, head of the Salvation Army, and evangelist Billy Sunday. Standing to one side are Colonel John Philip Sousa, a famous bandleader, opera singer Ernestine Schumann Hink, and Harry Truman. The south mural depicts the art of painting and includes images of the Gutenberg Press. Colonel Robert Studevant, one of Cape Girardeau's first publishers, Lewis Houck, the son of a newspaper publisher in Belleville, Illinois, Alan H. Henchy, former editor of the Daily Republican, and George Nader, publisher and owner of the Southeast Missourian newspaper.
The murals certainly were the brainchild of the River Heritage Mural Association. Tim Blotner, as the president of that group, kind of took it from drawing board to reality, if you will. We love the mural here at the Convention and Visitors Bureau. I mean, when you talk about our community and our community slogan, where the river turns 1,000 tales, that mural just, it captures it. You are actually having the opportunity to look back and really see history as it evolved from the early Indians, the early Native Americans that were here, all the way up to present. You know, when you see Bill Emerson sitting there, and now we have that wonderful bridge that you know, he helped to start and spearhead. But when I look at all of those different panels, they all have a different story, a different tale to tell.
Let me tell you just a little bit about our artist that we selected for the project. His name is Tom Melvin, and he came to us from Chicago. We had found out about the second year of the project that there was a special kind of paint available to us that we thought might be worth using, and it's called Kime paint. So we liked the idea of using that paint on our wall, and when I called the one and only supplier in the United States, she indicated that one of the things we needed to do was have experienced people to using the Kime paint. So she actually gave us a list of those people who were knowledgeable and experienced, and Tom Melvin's name was one of them. The newest mural in town was a project of the Trinity Lutheran Church. Tom Melvin, who was the artist and who did the design and did the painting back in May, June of 2005. The first paint went on the wall in the fall of 2003. For those who have been there to see it, you'll remember that there we have 24 of these what we call feature panels, in which there's an arch area and there's a certain vignette or activity that's going on in the arch. Almost each of what we call the feature panel have a little piece of river as a part of the design. They're all activities that are related to the river.
Each month we will take this journey where there are many places to go, there are many interesting people to meet, and so many new things to discover. Join us again as we discover Cape.